Well, hello and welcome to Insight with Political Tours, the travel company led by reporters around the world. Azerbaijan's shock seizure of Nagorno Karabakh seems to be a fait accompli. Stepanakert, the capital, is all but empty, deserted in the wake of a mass exodus of refugees. Meanwhile, Armenia's great ally, Russia, has been found wanting. Its peacekeepers stood by as Azeri forces pounded the enclave. While the conflict has ceased, huge questions remain now. What will Azerbaijan do next? And where does this leave Armenia and the region, not to mention all those refugees? Benyamin Poghosyan is a senior fellow on foreign policy at the Applied Policy Research Institute in Armenia, and he joins us now. Hello, Benjamin.
Hello, Nicholas, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed for joining us. I know there's a lot of pressure on demand for all of you. There's obviously a lot happening there at the moment, so I'm very grateful for your time. We couldn't get Richard Piroghosyan to join us. Unfortunately, he's got another commitment that has just popped up. But I'm very grateful to have Benjamin with us. So thank you very much indeed. Just can you give us an update on what's the situation at the moment in Nagorno Karabakh? Is there anybody left behind? Who is left behind? And has Azerbaijan's forces moved in?
So, before September 19, the latest offensive of Azerbaijani army, there was approximately 100,000 Armenians living in Nagorno Karabakh, or self-proclaimed Nagorno Karabakh Republic. Currently, according to different estimates, maximum number of Armenians who left there could be something between 50 and 100. I'm speaking about entire Nagorno Karabakh, not only the capital Stepanakert. So maximum 100 people remained.
100 people, just 100?
Yes, 100, yes, like 100. Simply 100, 100. 100 Armenians left there. Approximately 1,000 Armenians crossed Armenia-Nagorno Karabakh border within 10 days. So now in Armenia, we are having 101,000 refugees, which is quite a tough task for the compact country like Armenia, which its own population is less than 3 million. Population is approximately 2.8, 2.9 million. So who are these 100 people, or up to 100 people, because actual numbers could be even less? Mostly these are elderly people or alone people who simply had no ability to move or no ability to come to Armenia, with less possibilities for any mobility. So we may say that from this up to 100, maybe even less people who left, absolute majority are those who simply cannot live for whatever reasons, mostly because they are too old or they have no relatives, and etc., etc. And probably few, maybe 5, 7, 10, remain still trying to help these persons. So in any case, we may say that complete majority, because, okay, if you speak about 100,000 people and then 100, I think we can use the term absolute majority or complete majority of Armenians was forced to leave Nagorno-Karabakh starting from September 19, 2023, when Azerbaijan launched its latest attack against Nagorno-Karabakh.
Okay, and have the armed forces of Azerbaijan, have they moved in? Have they taken over government buildings? What's the situation in terms of the actual, have they gone in and occupied all of it?
Okay, in Stepanakert, there are Azerbaijani police, which is patrolling the empty streets. And also Azerbaijani security services arrested the former leadership of Nagorno-Karabakh Republic. 3 former presidents, Arkady Lukasyan, who was president from 1997 until 2007, Bako Sahakian, who was president from 2007 until 2020, and Aray Harutyunyan, who was president from 2020 until late August 2023. They all are arrested, along with Speaker of Nagorno-Karabakh Republic Parliament. Also, they arrested the former state minister, Rumen Vartanyan, very famous Armenian philanthropist and businessman, who moved to Nagorno-Karabakh in autumn 2022. For a short period, became a state minister, and then left its position in February 2023. And also the former Minister of Defense of Nagorno-Karabakh Republic, Lemon Manasakanyan, arrested. Former deputy head of the Nagorno-Karabakh Defense Army is arrested, and former Minister of Foreign Affairs, David Bagan, is arrested. So now we have 8 people from the leadership of Nagorno-Karabakh Republic who were arrested and have taken to Baku.
And I think the Azeri government had made it clear that it wanted to arrest the leaders of the government, a breakaway republic established in 1994 on internationally recognized Azerbaijan territory. But how, I'm less clear about how those people, I know there was an intent to detain them. Were they detained leaving the country, or did they were seized in offices and their homes? Do you know any idea how they were arrested?
Just for the sake of history, Nagorno-Karabakh Republic was declared not in 1994, but in 1991. It was first declared its independence in September 2, 1991. Then the referendum took place on December 10, 1991. I mean, the referendum of independence. Regarding how they have been arrested, several were arrested when they tried to cross the border and come to Armenia, while the former president, they didn't try to cross the border, and my understanding is that they have been arrested in capital Stepanakert.
Okay.
And David Babayan, former foreign minister, like he was told by Azerbaijan that you are in our blacklist, so better to surrender. My understanding is that maybe also there was some blackmail towards these people, that if you will try to escape, and if you will try to surrender yourself, then we may not allow the civilian population of Armenians who are going to leave Nagorno-Karabakh to Armenia.
Okay.
Because, for example, David Babayan, he put a Facebook post, I believe on late September 2023, when he stated that Azerbaijan demanded my surrender, and if I will try to escape to Armenia or in any other way to escape the arrest, it will harm many civilians in Nagorno-Karabakh. That is why I voluntarily will surrender myself to Azerbaijani custody. And this Facebook post give us base to argue that probably there was also some sort of blackmail, that if the leaders are not going to be arrested or will try to escape Nagorno-Karabakh, then Azerbaijan will try to harm more of the civilian population.
That's the leadership. Azerbaijan has also said that the citizens of Nagorno-Karabakh can have Azeri citizenship and that they're welcome to stay there. Yet it seems that nearly everyone, as you describe it, has left. Why have they left?
Okay, to answer this question, we should jump back starting from 1988 when the conflict began. I don't want to come too much into details in history, but very brief facts. So Nagorno-Karabakh was Armenian populated area for several millennia, not several centuries, but several millennia. We probably visited very few areas when Armenians were living non-stop for at least the last 3,000 years. So when Soviet Azerbaijan and Soviet Armenia was established in late 1920, 1921, by the decision of the Bolshevik Party, the Nagorno-Karabakh was put under the Soviet Azerbaijan jurisdiction, and in 1923, the autonomous region was established. But even during the Soviet time, when there was a lot of slogans of friendship between different nations, socialism, etc., there was much pressure against Armenians of Nagorno-Karabakh autonomous region within Soviet Azerbaijan. Several times, Nagorno-Karabakh applied to the Kremlin, telling that we are under pressure, we want to be part of Soviet Armenia, we don't want to be part of Soviet Azerbaijan. Then, when Gorbachev came into power in 1985, and the process started, perestroika, glasnost, and etc., in 1988, Nagorno-Karabakh local authorities made a decision to move away from Soviet Azerbaijan and become part of Soviet Armenia. Azerbaijan answered by large-scale massacres of Armenians inside Azerbaijan, because many Armenians lived in other Azerbaijani cities also, like Baku, Kirovohrad, Sumgay. So there were a lot of massacres of Armenians in 1988, 1990. Then in 1991, when Soviet Union collapsed, and Nagorno-Karabakh, before the collapse of Soviet Union, because Soviet Union officially collapsed in December 1991, as I mentioned, Nagorno-Karabakh Republic declared independence in September 1991. In any case, after the collapse of Soviet Union, there was a large-scale war. Azerbaijan attacked Nagorno-Karabakh, trying to defeat it militarily. But, of course, Armenia supported, because there was the same Armenians. There was a First Karabakh War, 1992, 1994. And in May 1994, ceasefire was declared. Armenia was victorious, and it not only could defend Karabakh, but also to take several regions outside of Nagorno-Karabakh autonomous region as a security zone. Then the negotiation process started, so-called OSCE Minsk group process, led by three co-chairs. Russia for us.
Benjamin, I'm sorry to cut you short, but because just in terms of time, I mean, I think what you're saying is that my question was, why did those people flee? And I think you're saying to me is that they could have no confidence that they would be safe within.
They would have zero confidence.
Zero confidence. Yeah.
Long story short, we can jump into the 4-day war of 2016. When Azerbaijan launched in 2016, then we had the 44 days of 2020, which Azerbaijan won and took back much of territory. But during these wars, there was a lot of crimes against humanity, war crimes, massacres of civilian population. So it was very clear to Armenians that under Azerbaijani jurisdiction, they will face torture, humiliation, and death.
Okay. Has that happened this time around in terms of this offensive, which has been comparatively short compared to the last conflict? A very large artillery bombardment, and then no ability for the Nagorno Karabakh forces to get any resupply of their forces, and capitulating very quickly. In that process, have there been any other massacres? There's talk of ethnic cleansing. That's what I'm trying to pin down, and perhaps it's I don't know if it's a misleading term in this context.
Okay, there are at least 25 verified civilian deaths starting from September 19, 25, with names, surnames, unfortunately including children, but also still there are missing people in Nagorno Karabakh, because in the initial phase of the offensive on September 19, several villages have been surrounded, and some people left these villages to the neighboring mountains and forests, and some still missing. So maybe we have even more civilians killed, but we have verified killing of at least 25 civilians, including children, during this 24-hour offensive of Azerbaijan.
Okay, so it's clear that people have no confidence in it. I mean, I'm going to come back to this question in terms of what happens to Nagorno Karabakh now, but I want to step back a bit and talk about the consequences of this and where it's going to go from now on. But just to start with, how is Armenia coping with the refugees? You said over 100,000 in a population, a country that's got less than 3 million people. What's actually happening to those refugees? Where are they going?
Okay, definitely it's a quite complicated task for Armenian government. As of now, some 50% accepted the government shelter. Another 50% of the population, like 50,000 people, they go to shelter to their relatives or friends. Now, government decided to provide a one-time payment to all, approximately $250. And also, decision was made that each will receive some $100 for trying to pay a rent for apartments. But we should understand that first, there were no such a free apartments in Armenia. Second, since Russia launched the invasion of Ukraine, up to 100,000 Russians came to Armenia, starting from February 2022. And these people already, most of them, they need rent, they need apartments. So even before this Azerbaijani offensive, there was a pressure on Armenian infrastructure, like apartments, housing, medicine, education, etc., etc. So definitely this is a very tough situation, especially given winter is coming. Winter in Armenia, both in Yerevan capital and outside Yerevan, temperatures could go beyond zero, like 10, 15 on Celsius. So situation is really tough.
So there's a need for Western support, a need for aid, there's a need for finance, a need for support coming from outside of Armenia.
Yes, we have some support, like just a few hours ago, European Commission stated that it will provide 25 million euros of support. Before that, European Union, like 2 days ago, stated about 5 million euros of support. USAID director Samantha Power visited Armenia a few days ago, and USAID or the United States will provide approximately $11,500,000 support. Then there will be some Canada stated that will provide some $2.5 million support, but definitely much more is needed, because again we are speaking about refugees of 100,000.
Okay, well, let's come on to the government and how it's been handling it. Armenia, is it 3 years ago, elected a pro-Western, sort of more EU-orientated government with Nikol Pashinyan leading it.
It was 5 years ago. It was in May 2018 when Pashinyan became prime minister through the Velvet Revolution.
And he has been perhaps less, Russia would have, what I'm interested in is how have people been critical of him? Obviously, this is a massive embarrassment for the government. This is a loss of a territory, and this is your kin who have been terribly affected by this, and the government seems to have been to do very little about it. At the same time, Nagorno-Karabakh has had a huge impact on Armenian politics. Figures from Nagorno-Karabakh have played a larger-than-life role within Armenian politics.
So here we should clarify 2 or 3 different issues. Definitely, Nagorno-Karabakh was very important for Armenian national identity and for Armenian statehood, starting from 1991. But also, we should accept that there was also some kind of conflict fatigue among Armenians, because in the last 30 years, as I mentioned, there were several big wars, but also almost on a daily basis, there were incidents along Armenia-Azerbaijan state border, along the line of contact between Karabakh and Azerbaijan. So somehow there was a conflict fatigue among part of society. Then, as you mentioned, yes, 2 presidents of Armenia who ruled Armenia from 1998 until 2018, they originally were from Nagorno-Karabakh, but during their rule, there was a lot of criticism against them regarding rampant corruption, lack of rule of law, some nexus of criminal elements with state officials, etc., etc. And somehow, the resentment against these people who were originally from Nagorno-Karabakh, for some part of society, this was projected into the entire Nagorno-Karabakh. In the third period, so-called Karabakh clan, that Karabakh clan is ruling Armenia, and the Karabakh clan is bad for Armenia. So
there's an irony here. You've got a reformist prime minister who's probably much more pro-Western, and yet he's having to deal with this crisis. And at the same time, Russia is actually accusing him of failing.
Yes, so when in 2018 Pashinyan came to power, of course he didn't say we are going to give Karabakh to Azerbaijan. Even in 2019 he went to Stepanakert and declared Karabakh is Armenian, period. But after the defeat in 2020 war, which was the first humiliation for Armenia, government position was changed. In 2022, Nikol Pashinyan stated that yes, Armenia is ready to recognize Nagorno-Karabakh as part of Azerbaijan. And even he dropped demands for autonomy for Nagorno-Karabakh. Despite, as I mentioned, Nagorno-Karabakh had autonomy in Soviet times. So starting from 2022, Pashinyan's position was, I don't want independence for Karabakh, I don't want autonomy for Nagorno-Karabakh, but I want some special guarantees for the rights of Armenians who will live in Nagorno-Karabakh and some international presence. But these claims were rejected by Azerbaijan.
And it's very important to say that those negotiations were actually expected to take place. There's meant to be some kind of agreement today, but Azerbaijan jumped the gun.
Yes, so
used the gun instead of jumping.
Negotiations took place for 2 years after 2020 war in 2 different formats. There was a Moscow format, facilitated mostly by President Putin, EU format facilitated by President of the European Council Charles Michel, and also in late 2022 and in early 2023, United States jumped into the process. The US organized 2 meetings between foreign ministers and their teams in May, June 2023 to work on peace agreement. But at the end of the day, now after the complete destruction of Nagorno-Karabakh, there are 2 main narratives in Armenia, and opposite narratives. Narrative number 1, the key responsible person is Nikol Pashinyan, regardless of his motives or whatever he did. Fact is fact that in May 2018, when he was elected prime minister, there was a functioning, self-declared Nagorno-Karabakh Republic with more than 11,000 square kilometer territory. 11,000 square kilometer territory. 5 years later, September 2023, no Nagorno-Karabakh Republic, complete destruction, all Armenians forced to leave their homeland. So Nikol Pashinyan, as a leader of the country, is a main responsible person, so he should take responsibility and at least resign. This is narrative number 1. But also there is a narrative number 2, that the clear responsible was Russia, because Russia was supposed to support Armenia, but because Nikol Pashinyan was more pro-Western than pro-Russian, then Russia decided to punish Nikol Pashinyan. That is why Russia started to support Azerbaijan. So the loss of Nagorno-Karabakh is a result of some sort of Russia subversion action, or Russia, Azerbaijan, Turkey coming into together. Plus, many people still accuse the former presidents, who ironically were themselves from Nagorno Karabakh, telling that, okay, if they established the more or less functioning normal state in 1998, 2018, Armenia would have stronger army, and Armenia would not be humiliated. So there's a polarization in Armenian society. Part are demanding resignation of Nikol Pashinyan, telling that you came and destroy everything. Another part is accusing Russia of all bad things or accusing the former authorities. And some are telling that, okay, maybe Nikol Pashinyan is not the best choice, but if now Nikol Pashinyan goes, then the former authorities or forces connected with former authorities will come back to power. And that is why in this battle of narratives, there is no like widespread condemnation of Nikol Pashinyan, because a lot of people still believe that either Russia is responsible or former authorities are responsible, or at least they argue that even if Pashinyan is responsible, but if Pashinyan will be forced to resign, then former authorities will come to power, and we don't want them.
Okay, well, I've got many questions and questions about the sort of regional dynamics of this, how the war in Ukraine has impacted upon it. But before we get on to what Russia's been doing, what Turkey's been doing, can I just, on a very narrow basis, ask the question: how was Azerbaijan able to force Nagorno Karabakh's collapse so quickly? Why was it so quick this time round?
Okay, let's fix that. Azerbaijan is a country from 8 to 10 million. Azerbaijan is an oil and gas rich country. In the last 15 years, Azerbaijan spent more than 30 billion US dollars to buy weapons. 30 billion US dollars. Mostly buying weapons from Russia, Israel, Turkey. Then Azerbaijan imposed a blockade on Nagorno Karabakh in December 2022. So effectively, these 100,000 people were almost semi-starved when Azerbaijan launched that attack. So it was
how does that blockade work? Because there's a small corridor coming from Armenia to Nagorno Karabakh, and also a supply road. Yeah, go on.
After the end of the war in 2020, when Russia mediated a ceasefire, there was an agreement there should be a Lachin corridor with 5-kilometer width, which should connect Armenia with Nagorno Karabakh, and the corridor should be under Russian peacekeepers.
I'm just going to share a screen so people can see that. So yeah, this is a slightly old map. So that's pointed out. The Lachin corridors just pointed out in the bottom. This is a slightly dated map. This.
Yes, it's a map of like maybe August 2023, before the Azerbaijani large-scale offensive. But however, so Azerbaijan imposed blockade on Lachin corridor starting from December 2022, arguing that Nagorno Karabakh should receive everything from Azerbaijan, from town Agdan, which is a town very close to Azerbaijan-Nagorno Karabakh border. But Armenians in Nagorno Karabakh stated that, okay, if we start to receive everything from Azerbaijan, then we are going to be integrated into Azerbaijan. But we cannot live under Azerbaijani jurisdiction for all of the reasons which I described just a few minutes earlier. That is why Armenians were insisting that no, the Lachin corridor should be opened, according also to the November 2020 statement. Azerbaijan said no. So there was a 9-month blockade. So these 100,000 people, they were semi-starved. And the small army, what army can have the 100,000 republic? Very small army. While Azerbaijan concentrated up to 60,000 troops along the borders of Nagorno Karabakh. So the forces were absolutely unequal. And when on September 19, Azerbaijan launched the attack, the Prime Minister of Armenia, Pashinyan, stated that Armenia are not going to intervene militarily. Pashinyan stated that I recognize Karabakh as part of Azerbaijan, so Armenian territory is not under attack. Armenian army will protect only Armenians' territory. This is not Armenia's territory.
In the background, Russia, which had peacekeepers there, was essentially told, basically wasn't going to do anything either.
Yes, but under the Russian pretext of justification for not doing everything, and Russia stated that, okay, if Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan recognized Nagorno Karabakh as part of Azerbaijan in October 2022, then reconfirmed his recognition of Karabakh as part of Azerbaijan in May and July 2023, then, okay, if even for Armenia, Nagorno Karabakh is Azerbaijan, then what Russia can do? They are not going to wage war against Azerbaijan for the Nagorno Karabakh, which Armenia itself recognized as part of Azerbaijan. So this was the Russia's justification not to do anything. So at the end of the day, from one hand, we have 60,000 strong army, armed with modern weapons from Russia, Turkey, Israel, And from another end, we have 100,000 population small republic, which was under blockade for 9 months. Definitely, everything was going to be finished for Nagorno Karabakh very soon. Then there was some resistance. According to Azerbaijani official data, it's like 200 Azerbaijani soldiers were killed. But in any case, it was clear that 100,000 small republic cannot resist too long against 8-10 million Azerbaijan.
Okay, thank you very much for that summary there. I want to keep the map up for just for a second, because the big question is now what happens next, and I want to draw everyone's attention to Azerbaijan, not just Azerbaijan on the right, but Azerbaijan on the left. There's an area called Nakhchivan, which is also Azerbaijan territory. And that is now a strategic question, I guess, after this conflict. Benjamin, there are two points of view. Having Nagorno-Karabakh, the question is now over. There's no dispute over it. It no longer exists as an autonomous entity challenging Azerbaijan's authority. So one could say, right, that's it. That's the end of the story. We now know there's no longer going to be a dispute over that, and that there's a rebalancing of power. Azerbaijan is the winner, Armenia is the loser. No, we don't hear anything more about that. The only thing we have to be concerned about is the refugees. You would say that that's wrong, wouldn't you?
I would say yes. Why? Because both before 2020 war and after 2020 war, Azerbaijan was demanding a corridor via Armenian region of Syunik, which is the southern part of Armenia, which, as we can see from the map, is sandwiched between Azerbaijan and Autonomous Republic of Nakhchivan. So, and also let's see that Nakhchivan has a small land border with Turkey. Nakhchivan has a 10-kilometer land border with Turkey, which means that the corridor from Azerbaijan to Nakhchivan, it also means direct land corridor from Azerbaijan to Turkey.
So where would that corridor? I mean, where are they suggesting that corridor should go between from there within their land border, going straight through the north, middle, where?
There are different ideas. Like Azerbaijan wants several highways. One very close to Iranian border, like in the southern part, and also two others a little bit north from this Armenian-Iran border. But Azerbaijan wants one railway and up to 3 highways, which should pass through Armenia and connect Nakhchivan with Azerbaijan, and then effectively to connect Azerbaijan with Turkey. And again, this was the demand both before 2020 war and after 2020 war. And also, when 2020 war was finished with Russian mediation, the trilateral statement was signed in November 2020. And according to the Article 9 of this trilateral statement, there was written that Armenia will guarantee the movement of cargo, people from Azerbaijan to Nakhchivan via Armenia, but the control of transportation should be realized by Russian border troops. So this was in a statement which ended the Second Karabakh War in 2020. So now Azerbaijan tells that, okay, Armenia agreed to establish these routes, which they call Zangezur corridor. Armenia is saying that, okay, we are ready to provide routes, but no corridors. There should be no extraterritorial corridor. But if Azerbaijan is ready to use Armenian territory, it's no problem, but they should pass proper passport control, customs control, as between any independent countries, while Russia still demands that, as it was written in November 10, 2020 statement, the routes should be under Russian control. And why is Russia interesting? Because Russia would like to have alternative connection with Turkey. And Russia views these Azerbaijan-Turkey routes via Armenia and Nakhchivan as a part of Russia-Turkey alternative routes, like Russia, Azerbaijan, Armenia, Turkey. That is why Russia is also interested to establish these routes, but Russia would like to have these routes under its own control.
Okay, I'm just going to stop sharing the map there, but it's very important to realize the geography, to see that section of Azerbaijan, Nakhchivan, in the southwestern corner there of Armenia. So this comes on to the regional questions. We get to talk a bit more about how the different strategic interests in the region. So there are two. Well, first of all, Turkey is obviously Azerbaijan's major backer militarily, but also economically. But there's a tie also within Russia also needs Turkey. It needs to have those good trading interests, and also since the war in Ukraine, a huge amount of trade and illicit goods have been going through Turkey and through Azerbaijan to Russia. So it doesn't look like there's much in Armenia's favor at the moment. But the other question I would have is, that would suggest that everything's in Azerbaijan's favor. But you're concerned about, in actual fact, Azerbaijan saying that having won the territory by force this time, what's to stop it from actually using force to create the corridor and then actually uniting up with Nakhchivan by force?
There are two scenarios here. One scenario stipulates that the main obstacle for Armenia-Azerbaijan peace was the existence of de facto independent Nagorno Karabakh Republic. Now this republic is destroyed, so this will pave the way for Armenia-Azerbaijan peace agreement, and then it will pave the way also for Armenia-Turkey normalization. Let's not forget that Turkey closed its land border with Armenia.
Keep talking. I've got a problem with my computer, and I know I can fix it, but just I'll be back in 1 second. So excuse me while I nip out and find the solution.
Let's not forget that Turkey closed the border with Armenia in 1993, and also now Armenia-Turkey normalization negotiations are on the way. But Turkey's position is very clear. Turkey is ready to normalize relations with Armenia only after Armenia-Azerbaijan normalization. So, according to the scenario number one, Nagorno-Karabakh, the existence of de facto independent Nagorno-Karabakh was the main obstacle for Armenia-Azerbaijan peace. Now there is no Nagorno-Karabakh, so most probably we will have first Armenia-Azerbaijan peace, then Armenia-Turkey normalization, and this will stabilize the South Caucasus, and also this will decrease Russia's presence in South Caucasus, because Russian presence in Armenia is mostly relied on Armenia's fear of Azerbaijan and Turkey. If Armenia normalizes relations with Azerbaijan and Turkey, then probably Armenia does not need Russia, and then Armenia can leave Collective Security Treaty Organization, Eurasian Economic Union, and even Armenia can demand the withdrawal of Russian military base from Armenia. This is scenario number one. But there is also scenario number two. That Nagorno-Karabakh was not the only obstacle on Armenia-Azerbaijan. That Azerbaijan has much more demands, and this not only the corridors, but also now Azerbaijan circulates the concept of Western Azerbaijan. What does it mean? That according to Azerbaijan, most part of current Armenia are historical land of Azerbaijan, which called Western Azerbaijan. And now Azerbaijan demands that Azerbaijanis should come and live in Western Azerbaijan, which means that come and live in Armenia. And they are speaking about hundreds of thousands of Azerbaijanis. So from the second perspective, the destruction of Nagorno-Karabakh will not bring peace to the South Caucasus. On the contrary, it will allow Azerbaijan to focus all its forces against Armenia and put more and more military pressure against Armenia to receive corridor via Syunik to connect with Nakhchivan and Turkey, and also to force Armenia to accept this concept of Western Azerbaijan and to agree that hundreds of thousands of Azerbaijanis should come and live in Armenia. So from the second perspective, we are now closer to the all-out war between Armenia and Azerbaijan, which very quickly can turn into regional war, because we have Iran, who is absolutely against the establishment of the corridors between Azerbaijan and Turkey, because Iran calls this Pan-Turkish NATO corridor. One Pan-Turkish because it will connect Turkey, Azerbaijan, and via Caspian Sea, Turkey with Central Asian states. And we know that in 2021, Organization of Turkic State was established, and all this perceived very negatively by Iran. And why NATO corridor? Because Turkey still is a member of NATO, despite all problems or skirmishes between Turkey and the United States. So from Iranian perspective, the establishment of any corridor between Azerbaijan and Nakhchivan is absolutely unacceptable. And if Azerbaijan decides to use force, then Iran also may intervene militarily. And then Turkey may intervene because Turkey and Azerbaijan are strategic allies. And all this may end with another big regional war in South Caucasus.
Okay, but you're not. I mean, I think that would depend upon whether Azerbaijan actually used force. I can't see Iran intervening in that conflict. I could possibly see Iran supporting, giving increased military aid to Armenia, but no one's suggesting that. Iran, I think, would be very hesitant to get into that kind of conflict.
Okay, if there will be direct attack by Azerbaijan against Armenia, because Azerbaijan is going to occupy southern Armenia or part of southern Armenia to establish direct land corridor with Turkey, then no one can exclude that Azerbaijan may intervene militarily, Iran may intervene militarily. let's not forget that Iran has quite developed military capacities. Iran launched 2 large-scale military drills along Iran-Azerbaijan border in 2021 and in 2022, sending signals to Azerbaijan that establishment of so-called Zangezur corridor, which again Iran calls NATO pan-pluralist corridor, is absolutely unacceptable for Iran.
Okay.
And also just a few days ago, Secretary of Armenia Security Council was in Iran, and also the special representative of President Aliyev was in Iran. And they met with high-level Iranian officials, including President Raisi. And President Raisi made it very clear to both Armenian and Azerbaijani officials, Iran will not allow establishment of any Zangezur corridor.
It seems clear to me that with the war in Ukraine, Russia's had to acquiesce to Azerbaijan's increasing power and accept that it's no longer the power that it was in the Caucasus. But at the same time, the other thing that's clear to me is the impotence of the West. Not that the United States or Europe have been a big power in the region, yet it would seem we're buying Azerbaijan's gas, and we're unable to do anything about a situation that seems particularly unpleasant. Here we have a population forced out from its homes. And we've seen that in Ukraine, and we're supplying Ukrainian arms in order to fight back against it. But we seem to be very quiet about this.
Yes, and interestingly, just a few days before Azerbaijani large-scale offensive, both the United States and the European Union sent public messages to Azerbaijan that use of force against Nagorno Karabakh is unacceptable. For example, the acting Assistant Secretary of State of the United States on Europe and Eurasia, Yuri King, during the hearings in the U.S. Senate Foreign Relations Committee on September 14, publicly stated that the United States sent a clear message to Azerbaijan. Use of force against Nagorno-Karabakh is unacceptable for the United States. 5 days later, September 19, Azerbaijan launched large-scale offensive against Nagorno-Karabakh, but we see almost no reaction from the United States. Nothing happened, no sanctions, even no threat of sanctions. The same was from the European Union. Charles Michel, the president of the European Council, stated several times that the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, the issue of Nagorno-Karabakh should be solved only through diplomatic means. The European Union is against the use of force. But again, after September 19, we don't see nothing. Why? Because of these several EU countries, mostly southeastern European countries, they're dependent on Azerbaijani gas. Yes, in general European terms, Azerbaijan is able to provide only 2 to 3% of the gas consumption of the European Union. But for several individual states like Bulgaria, Romania, Italy, Azerbaijani gas plays a significant role. For example, immediately after September 19 attack, when the European Union was going just to issue a statement condemning Azerbaijan, not sanction statement, even statement was vetoed by Hungary, because Hungary said that no, I don't think that EU should embarrass Azerbaijan. So yes, this economic relations or economic interests of the European Union somehow prevented EU from putting much more pressure on Azerbaijan. Now, regarding the United States position, because also the US is interested to see reduced Russian presence in South Caucasus. And for the United States, reduced Russian presence means reduced Russian military presence. And Russian military presence was in Nagorno-Karabakh, and Russian military presence was also in Armenia. So from US perspective, if destruction of Nagorno-Karabakh Republic will result in withdrawal of Russian peacekeepers from Nagorno-Karabakh, because Azerbaijan may say, I don't need Russian peacekeepers, because okay, if there are no Armenians, there should be no Russian peacekeepers. In this context, in pure geopolitical terms, this also could be good for the United States. And then if Armenia and Azerbaijan signs peace agreement, and then we have Armenia-Turkey normalization. And at the end of the day, if Armenia would say, okay, I don't need Russian military base in Armenia because I don't fear Turkey or Azerbaijan anymore, this is also good for the United States. So I believe from geopolitical point of view, and also due to some European economic interests, we don't see a real backlash against Azerbaijan's latest offensive.
Say that last sentence again. Last sentence
that due to some geopolitical perceptions or considerations, and also due to economic interest of some European countries, we did not see clear backlash against latest Azerbaijani offensive.
Right. If you were the prime minister in Yerevan, what would you do, both militarily and strategically? What are your options?
Okay, if you are speaking about today, October 5, of the complete destruction of Nagorno Karabakh Republic, definitely Armenia has few options. What I would do, first of all, I will try to have better understanding regarding the Iran's position. Is Iran ready to really support Armenia by supplying weapons, or maybe by joint military drills, or maybe even establishing military base in Armenia? Because we are hearing a lot of rhetoric from Iran, but it would be nice to understand, of course, in closer discussions, what Iran's options in reality are. Second, regardless of all the problems with Russia and all the disappointment from Russia by its lack of action or inaction, I will try not to irritate Russia more, because maybe Russia is not the best ally of Armenia, but Russia could be a terrible enemy of Armenia. So I would say, okay, we are disappointed of Russia, but I would avoid irritate Russia more, because Russia could do a lot of harm against Armenia. Simultaneously, I will try to diversify Armenian foreign and defense policy, which Armenia more or less is doing. In the last 1 year, we have close cooperation with India. Now Armenia is buying weapons from India. And just 2 days ago, on October 3rd, when French foreign minister was in Yerevan, she stated that France is ready to supply weapons to Armenia. So, in some diversification, a better understanding of Iran's option, and not irritating Russia.
Okay. I've got, if people haven't got questions, and I haven't got to see any of the written, I'll have to wrap this up fairly shortly. The other thing I just want to underline is also Russia, how Russia's got closer to Azerbaijan. There's a suggestion that Russia has actually been sending gas through Azerbaijan in order to ship it through to the West and break sanctions. Why does Russia need Azerbaijan? And also, just to state the obvious again, make that point again, why does Russia need Turkey?
Okay, why Russia need Azerbaijan? First, Russia needs Azerbaijan for international north-south corridor, which connects Russia with India via Azerbaijan, Iran. This is number one. There is a railway connection between Russia and Azerbaijan. Soon, in a few years, there will be a railway connection between Azerbaijan and Iran. So Russia can import or export everything from India and other Asian countries via Iranian Persian Gulf ports, and then by railway from Iranian Persian Gulf ports via Azerbaijan, they will enter directly to Russia. This is number one. Second, as you mentioned, Russia can use Azerbaijan to sell its own gas and oil to Europe, camouflaging them as an Azerbaijani gas. This is second issue. And third, let's not forget that Azerbaijan is a Caspian Sea country, and Russia also is Caspian Sea country. So there is also some connections or relations within this Caspian basin. And why Russia needs Turkey? Number one, Russia needs Turkey to circumvent Western sanctions or to avoid Western sanctions. And we all know that tens of billions of dollars of goods, sanctioned Western goods, are going into Russia via Turkey. And also, of course, Russia and Turkey have a lot of coinciding and contradicting interests, but not only in South Caucasus, but in Middle East. They have Syrian conflicts, they have Astana format for Syria, Russia, Turkey, Iran. They both are involved in Libya, they are involved in Eastern Mediterranean, so a lot of connections, coinciding and contradicting interests between Russia and Turkey.
We've got a question from Maureen O'Mara, but I'm going to ask it on her behalf because she's unable to open her microphone. What's been Georgia's attitude to all of this? What's the Georgian government, we know, has been pretty sympathetic to Russia, but it's Georgia itself is politically split with an opposition that's certainly not pro-Moscow. So what's the attitude of Georgia towards this conflict?
Okay, Georgia tried to keep a neutrality, but we have to fix that from Georgian perspective. Turkey and Azerbaijan are much more important partners for Georgia than Armenia. If you go into the Georgia's national security strategy, you will read that Azerbaijan and Turkey are strategic partners of Georgia, while Armenia only is a good neighbor. Why? Let's not forget that oil and gas from Azerbaijan to world markets pass through Georgia. Baku-Tbilisi-Ceyhan oil pipeline, Baku-Tbilisi-Erzurum gas pipeline, and also there is a railway, Baku-Tbilisi cars, like Azerbaijan, Georgia, Turkey. And also there is a lot of investment, Turkish Azerbaijani investment in Georgian economy. So from pure economic point of view, Turkey and Azerbaijan are much more important for Georgia. So Georgia kept neutrality, but at the strategic level, he views Azerbaijan and Turkey much more important countries than Armenia.
Well, listen, I think it's been a fantastic and very comprehensive discussion. I'm really grateful. You're a very precise and thoughtful analyst. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do two things. I want to share a recent article by you, which is with, I think it's called Common Space? Here we go.
Yes, it could be Common Space.
It's commonspace.eu, and if you want to get us a summary of what Benjamin's, what are the options open he thinks for Azerbaijan, what Azerbaijan's likely to do have a look at this article, and I'll share the link to that article in the chat as well. But it's a good thing if you want to go and read that, do so. I think we've got another question, which I think we've got another question in the chat box this time. Yeah. So here this is about the diaspora. What's been the Armenian diaspora is well known and huge, and a lot of it's in the United States. What's been their reaction, and has there been a sort of I presume? Well, here we go. Hey, Deirdre, you can ask your own question.
Well,
okay, the majority of
Deirdre's going to ask a question first, and then you can. Go on, Deirdre.
Just has there been any pressure from the Armenian diaspora, particularly the American Armenian diaspora? They put a huge amount of money into Nagorno Karabakh, building roads, etc., etc., etc.
Okay, because the political active part of diaspora is definitely mostly now is very angry against Prime Minister and against Pashinyan, because I believe that for whatever reason, maybe for lack of competence or for another reasons, but Pashinyan was not able to pursue balanced and right foreign policy. He is the man responsible for this terrible result, which we had, complete destruction of Nagorno Karabakh and forced displacement of all Armenians from Nagorno Karabakh. But also, let's not forget that Armenian diaspora itself is not a pyramid with clear leadership. There is no one, the president of Armenian diaspora, who is able to represent 2 million Armenians in Russia, more than 1 million Armenians in the United States, some 600,000 Armenians in France. So when we are speaking about diaspora, we should understand that it's a very complex and complicated organism, but majority of politically active part of diaspora, they are very disappointed. They are accusing both the West and Russia, but also they are accusing the Armenian government for this disaster.
So there's no clear, it's in terms of the impact, it's going to be limited. So what in terms of the immediate prospect for the refugees at the moment, Benjamin? And that's one question, and then there's the question of the government's future itself.
For the future of refugees, I believe that they need several months to overcome the shock. So definitely until spring 2024, I believe mostly they will stay in Armenia. Then all depends will they find the necessary conditions to continue to live in Armenia. If no, then some will try to go to Russia or to other places. So I don't exclude that starting from spring 2024, some of these 100,000 refugees will try to leave Armenia. As we see, for example, the case with Armenian refugees from Syria and Iraq. Many came to Armenia, but some left. Regarding the future of Armenian government, I believe for at least as far as there is no major external shock, and by telling major external shock, I merely mean large-scale attack of Azerbaijan against Armenia itself for opening the corridor, I believe that more or less the government position are more or less secure. So again, if there is no major external shock, I don't think and I don't believe that there will be a change of government in Armenia soon. Now, the next parliamentary elections is scheduled for 2026. Armenia is a parliamentary republic. The prime minister is number one person. Prime minister is elected by parliament. Next parliamentary elections are only in 2026, 3 years from now.
So you've talked about the risk of a major conflict breaking out. Are you saying that one of the priorities of the government should be to rearm, obviously, and prepare for that? It doesn't seem to be the obvious thing that this kind of government would be doing.
To be very frank, even despite the destruction of Nagorno Karabakh Republic, government is speaking about peace agenda speaking that peace has no alternative in the region and Armenia should do everything to reach peace with Azerbaijan and Turkey, probably believing that Armenia has no sustainable future if there is no normal relation with Azerbaijan and Turkey, there are no open borders with Azerbaijan and Turkey. Let's not forget Armenia is a landlocked country, has only 4 borders, and Azerbaijan, Turkey, Georgia, Iran. And 2 of them are closed for more than 30 years. So, but also I have to accept that at least government, starting from late 2022, it took some steps to establish defense cooperation with India and also buying some weapons from India. According to Indian publicly available information from India, up to $1 billion agreements were signed between Armenia and India for supplying different Indian weapons. And also we see that something tangible is coming out from France, especially after French foreign minister visit. So from one side, government is speaking about necessity of peace, that despite all the terrible things that Azerbaijan did, Armenia still is interested in peace. Armenia would like to sign a peace agreement with Azerbaijan, but also more or less the government trying to somehow find a new ways to increase Armenia's deterrence capacities and capabilities.
So an astute response there. Benjamin, thank you very much indeed. I think we've covered all our bases. It's been a really good discussion. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. Do stay with us, everyone. We're just going to have a look at the talks coming up and tours for the rest of the year. An excellent discussion, really, really very thorough from Benyamin Poghosyan. Thank you very much indeed.